Today I have a treat. I'm going to talk about review a new bike that I got, and it is the Specialized Stumpjumper FSR, and it is, of course, the $9,000 build. Just kidding. I find it humorous, not humorous, but kind of annoying sometimes when you try to go find reviews online on a product you're looking for, and everyone reviews the most expensive item that a company offers. And me being who I am, I cannot afford a $9,000 mountain bike. Realistically, now if I was racing and making money, or I won this bike or something to that fact, then yeah, I would get the $9,000 version. But today I am going to talk about a mid-scale bike, one that was even more expensive than I should have bought. It is the Stumpjumper Expert 6 Fatty, and it retails for $4,400 instead of $8,200 or $9,000 that the higher end bikes cost. But this one is really cool for me because it has the carbon wheels and the carbon frame. My background, I had a 2016, which I purchased new in 17 in February, the aluminum frame comp version, and I loved it. It was the perfect bike. It met every possible need of mine, but it got stolen about 2 weeks ago. So with that being said, that one I really liked because I had it all customized, little fine-tuned parts. I had everything just set up perfectly for my riding ability. And what was cool about that bike is it had the Fox rear shock, and most bikes come with rock shocks these days. It had the Fox Float 34 front forks, and it had the gold sanction tubes. And then what was unusual about my bike is it came with the GX, the SRAM all around, but it came with the Shimano front disc brakes and rear brake too. So it had really superior braking compared to most of the lower to middle line SRAM brakes. But I'm gonna check these new brakes out. This bike is equipped with the GX Eagle, so hopefully there's a step up in the performance on these parts. But like I said, what's cool about this one is versus my aluminum one is this one has the carbon fiber frame, aluminum rear triangle though, but it has the carbon wheels that came with this expert package. Both my bikes were the 650B plus or the 27.5 plus, or some people used to call them fatties. But my intention of doing this is to give people a more middle line bike instead of XO equipment and the lightest and the most expensive of everything, and give more a realistic what most people can buy. And even though this was more expensive than what I should have purchased, I spent a little bit more money just to get a little bit higher end bike because I enjoy riding quite a bit. And so with that being said, my review looking at will continue, and just go to the next phase, okay? All right, just for fun, here's a picture of my 2016 Stumpjumper, the aluminum that I talked about. Man, I really loved this bike. It did everything well, and it is such a value compared to a lot of the other bikes out there. I was seriously looking at the Santa Cruz bikes. Let me see, the Hightower, and what's the other one? The Bronson and the 5010. But those bikes, for a little bit more money than this one, didn't have a dropper seat post and had NX line components, and you know, they were more expensive with less equipment. So I mean, I had to go with the Stumpjumper, and the Stumpjumper just, it really met my needs. It was the perfect bike, and I'm very sad to see this one go. As you can see, it's got the Fox shocks, and I had customized my own personal seat on there, and I had upgraded the bars to some riser bars, and raised the stem up just a hair. And man, like I said, it was just the perfect bike. And this was the or the 27.5 rims with the fatty tires. So with that being said, we'll say goodbye to that stolen bike, and then we'll move to the new one that I have, the Stumpjumper Expert. You know, there were two color options. They didn't have this color option in stock, and it was going to be months away until they got the black with the red. But I'm not real sure that I like that version, and I didn't really like this version either of the colors. But that's what they had in stock, and it's starting to grow on me. So that's what I ended up with. So with the $4,400 version, you do get an incredible amount of equipment on it for that value. You will get the carbon fiber wheels, carbon fiber frame. I'll let you you know, see this here. You get the SRAM GX Eagle crank chain, and you get the whole component except for the crank set, which is, I don't know why they didn't go with the GX Eagle on this one and just have that as the whole package. But you know, and I actually like the seat post. I love the command post on my other one, so I'm sure this one will function just as well. I like how the little lever under the handlebar works so well and is so smooth, and how easy it is to operate versus some of the other ones. But now even RockShox and some of the other ones are getting away from their quirky control to raise it or lower it, and they're going with this lever under the bars. But I still don't think theirs works as good unless you buy the $9,000 bike. So here's all the stats. If you want to see the stats on this particular bike, just hit pause. An amazing value for carbon fiber frame and those carbon fiber wheels, which they're about $1,000 to $1,500 for carbon wheels. These are probably the lower end of the spectrum of Specialized carbon wheels, but they're not cheaper than $1,000 if you were to buy these. So that is a huge value versus the Santa Cruz line of bikes with aluminum wheels, and they're initially $500 to $1,000 more expensive. So this was the version of the Stumpjumper that I decided to go with. Okay, for the last segment, my dog's gonna be in here because get off my shoe and leave me alone. He will not get out of the way. Here is a little bit of riding time. Oh, come on, get out of here. A little bit of riding time on this bike. I don't have my clipless pedals yet because I have to order them. I just got this bike yesterday again. This is a large frame. Most of the riding that I do, we do have trails around here in Dallas. No big mountain trails and no real big jumps unless you make a jump off something. So the majority of the stuff that I ride, I live near White Rock Lake, so I ride around the lake, and so that's all flat land, and I usually ride from my house there. So city riding, curbs, some steps, grass, riding around across busy intersections, jumping a lot of curbs, and then get to the lake and ride around on the concrete. It's fun, but there's trails to go ride, and some hills and some roots and some rocks, some water crossings. Marshall, stop. stop. And then, so no, I like to jump off ledges, 3-4 foot to flat ground, and then ride up, 6 or 7 steps, steep steps, challenging, rocks, boulders, big tree roots, trees that have been cut down and the roots, the big trunk has been left in the ground that's probably, 1.5 foot off the ground, 2 foot. Jump right up that, jump over that. So that's what I like to ride. You've got to stop biting me. That is getting a pain. So my first impression of riding it from my other one, because it wasn't long ago that I rode my aluminum frame. This one with the carbon fiber frame and the carbon wheels, the best way that I can kind of put it to someone that's interested in buying a carbon frame and maybe carbon wheels versus aluminum is that this bike functions like a solid piece of metal, one piece of metal. So when you're riding it, there's no flex. So the suspension seems to work better. The suspension is forced to work, and so it's more forgiving in a degree, along with these tires. I want you to stop, and then my comparison is, I guess, a single piece of material working over obstacles. There's not any noise. It compared to components with other components on it, and you feel them working, independently, flexing and making noise and movement versus the other components where this carbon frame and wheels feels like it's made out of one material, and I don't know if that's a way to explain it. It just feels really, really solid, and where I guess then the suspension gets to do more of its work, and so the suspension feels more plush. Now, I don't think that there's a drastic difference in the 2016 Fox suspension, the Fox 34 fork, which is probably the same. I think it's all the same, but it's a RockShox versus a Fox. It basically works the same. So that's just my impression. I'm pleasantly satisfied. Is $4,400 worth versus $3,300? Is it worth that money? I would probably say yeah, definitely. It's going to be compounded twice as much, I guess, when I actually get on some trails and I get my clipless pedals and I start bunny hopping and jumping over fallen tree trunks and big rocks and negotiating the trails by hopping around with my clipless setup. So I mean it's only going to get better. Yeah, but I think it rode better. It's quieter. The suspension seems to perform a little better. The shifting, I mean, it's brand new, so if it's going to break in and get better, I mean, that's a possibility, but it rides really good. It's really smooth and it's really quiet. Shifts are pretty crisp. Shifts on my 716 were pretty good, but I think this is a step up from that. So, and the weight-wise, I think my other bike was about 30 pounds. When you pick it up, it was had a little heft to it. Wasn't bad, but this one here, I'm assuming because I don't have a scale, I don't have a way to lift it up and hold it. I am running tubeless. I got that straight from the bike shop, so I took the tubes out, so that cut down some weight. I would estimate, and I'm pretty good at estimating, probably about 28 and over 28 and a half pounds. So maybe a 2 to 2.5 pound drop in weight. You can definitely feel it. I had XT clipless pedals, with the extra cage around them, and I'm going to get those same pedals again. So, man, I'm pretty thrilled with it. So yeah, that's my first impressions on this bike. I think it's going to have definitely a good future, and I can get my own seat again and get maybe some carbon fiber handlebars, as I know that shock absorption of my arms and get some good grips could be an issue. This dog has got a mind of its own, but yeah, it rides great. It's a great bike. So that's the color. It's growing on me every hour. In the daylight it looks pretty cool. So that's my bike review. This is the Specialized FSR large 27.5 plus tire expert version. Yeah, and that's it. Hit me up if you have any questions. That dog is crazy. Cool.